Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is Wonder Woman, issue number 218, dated July 1975. This is basically two mediocre stories in one issue. And the comic is actually being hosted by, I don't want to say mediocre guys. I mean, one of them, yeah, is a mediocre guy, Red Tornado. Phantom Stranger is a character I do like, but nevertheless, I don't think the Phantom Stranger had enough juice to sort of host an entire issue here of Wonder Woman, because obviously the idea is to sort of get a crossover of fans. And I don't remember Red Tornado getting too many fans. And Phantom Stranger, while an important character, was sort of a middle tier character. We'll take a look at the cover. We see one of the stories. I think this is actually the B story, where the Statue of Liberty is throwing her torch at Wonder Woman, who is blandly knocked out by this. She's not showing much emotion. She realizes how bland these two stories are. And mostly the Phantom Stranger is doing the talking, saying these are two amazing Amazon stories, which they are not. So I'm going to get into the comic book. Turn the page. The first thing I'm going to take a look at is the Hostess Fruit Pie advertisement. This is the spy. This is one I had talked about earlier. This is the really weird one where a rival reporter breaks into Clark Kent's apartment because his paper is jealous of all the scoops Clark Kent gets with Superman stories. And it turns out this snoop, who's breaking and entering, by the way, felony, finds out that Clark Kent is Superman because he's seen the extra costumes in the closet here. Superman knows of this, but he doesn't say anything. Then, for some reason, this press reporter is allowed access into Clark Kent's apartment legally. And not only that, he's allowed to invite people, including Clark himself. So, oh God, the two women here must be looking at him like a dickless incompetent. But it turns out that that when he reveals what's in the closets, it's not extra Superman costumes or maybe Batman's cowl, leather cowl, but it's Hostess fruit pies. And everyone's enjoying them. And I gotta say, I really enjoy this drawing of Lois. If I could find a real life equivalent to this drawing, oh boy, I would be so happy. Okay, so I'm going to turn from that, turn the page, get into the first story here. And it's Revolt of the Wonder Weapons. And again, structurally, there's a lot of problems with this story. There's a lot of plot convenience here. There's a lot of telling and not showing, which is normally not good. There's definitely a lot of shortcuts. And overall, it's not a particularly interesting story, but I'm going to go through it. And of course, this is the Red Tornado story. So yeah, if you're going to give a dog story to a character, you're going to give it to Red Tornado here. So we start off with Red Tornado here at his job as a key punch operator. So basically, he's kind of data entry. This was a fairly new occupation at the time. And he's working at a place called Speed Think Inc. We would be looking at this as probably an AI company, but no, they're just punching in just basic standard information, people's information and such. Red Tornado, he's as his alter ego. Red Tornado is an android who actually does have a human alter ego, which is a little weird because, okay, he can pass as a human and maybe he doesn't get bothered too much on the street, but it's not like he needs entertainment. It's not like he needs to eat. It's not like he needs to sort of wind down, although I'm sure he does need to rest his parts. So anyway, but Red Tornado here, he's turning into Red Tornado. He's thinking about Wonder Woman and how she's trying to get herself readmitted into the Justice League of America. Now remember, Wonder Woman actually does not have agency in her own title, because it's the host who are relaying what they know and what they think, and not Wonder Woman's thoughts herself. Although in this case we do get an idea of Wonder Woman's thoughts, as she regularly thinks and thinks out loud to herself. And we see here, as Red Tornado is speaking into a microphone about this particular adventure, which is called, Revolt of the Wonder Weapons. We see this is a story where Wonder Woman's tools turn against her. In a, as I mentioned, a very uninspiring story. So anyway, what's happening here, and this is sort of a preview of what's going to happen, is that Wonder Woman is on, she's on, what do they call their island? Amazon Island, I think. And there's a young Amazonian. She's falling off a cliff. Wonder Woman is there to save her, but she can't save her because her lasso, her magic lasso, turns against her. And here Mom is watching her daughter just totally screwing this up. Okay, so we're going to get into the story. Oh, the creative team. The creative team is Martin Pasco. I've seen some of his comics with this name. I don't think he made a huge impact in terms of writing. The artist is a bit more well known, Kurt Schaffenberg. He was a long time Lois Lane artist. He drew beautiful faces. And this is edited by Jules Schwartz, and Jules honestly should be ashamed of himself. He needs, his estate needs to return this check that he took for editing this story. And so I'm going to go into it. So we see Diana Prince, and she's looking out from her New York condo here. It appears that she is living on the east side.
Moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky.
And within her view is the 59th Street Bridge. This is, I think this is the Triborough Bridge. It's around this area where we have the tram. We have the tram service.
This one's for you, De Silva.
Oh, Christ, don't do it. Oh, God damn it, Matt, he killed her.
Which is kind of okay. I prefer the tram in Portland. So anyway, Diana Prince, she's preparing lunch, but she's seeing this fire that's going on about 15 or so blocks away from her. And it turns out that rather than being hungry for lunch, she's actually hungry for some action. She really wants to go into action as Wonder Woman, which she does. Now, in the comic book here, her transformation from Diana Prince to Wonder Woman, it's done with the lasso. As she's swinging the lasso, she brings it down lower and lower. And as this is happening, the I guess there's the molecules are changing here. This is similar to, I think, how Storm would use her elemental power to sort of change the molecules of her clothing. This is not as spectacular as what the TV show was doing, which was Linda Carter's idea of spinning around. But then again, I'm sure Kurt Schaffenberg would have had a fit if he had to try to figure out how to visually draw that. So anyway, it turns out Wonder Woman is trying to call for her plane, which she refers to as robot plane. So she's talking as though this plane does have an intelligence, and the comics did write computers as actually having an intelligence. So comic book writers at least had an idea of what AI would look like. But nevertheless, as the plane is coming, Wonder Woman notices something strange with it. And then it does something strange as it flies right into the East River. And there's like no Captain Scully there to guide it down. So it goes straight down to the bottom. Wonder Woman's obviously confused by this because she had not sensed anything that would make her believe that the plane would malfunction like that. However, she has a more pressing problem, the fire that's blazing in this huge, I don't want to say tenement because it looks like kind of a factory. And nevertheless, there's a huge fire going on. She's going to have to huff it because, as I had mentioned, she's about 15 blocks away from that fire, which tells you she has a really nice view. And how Wonder Woman is able to do that is that the magic lasso has infinite stretch, which means that the lasso can actually stretch itself those full 15 blocks, and she can ride the lasso on her way that way. Again, this is very hackish writing, I have to say. Now, Red Tornado is retelling this story. He's retelling this story in his the data banks of the computer that he's using, because it's these recordings that the members of the Justice League will go over, and they'll decide whether Wonder Woman should be readmitted or not. Now, Red Tornado is saying, if you'll permit an android literary license, my circuits tingled with excitement as I watched Wonder Woman go into action from the bridge. Those circuits tingling, I'm kind of wondering if the Vision has that set up. And when Wanda comes in, she comes into the bedroom, she's in her little nightie, and Vision's like going, my circuits are tingling. So I guess, hey, androids can get aroused too. So anyway, Wonder Woman reaches the Queensboro Bridge. And what she does is that from there, she's able to use her magic lasso, which once again has infinite length, depending on how much it needs to stretch for the rider to get this part over with. And then what she does is that she lassos the flame. Basically, the flame is magnetically attracted to the lasso. So as she's bringing the lasso up, whatever flames are rising with it, I kind of hope there were no people on these top floors here, because that flame would have gone right through them. And then what Wonder Woman does is that she has this kind of lasso of fire, and she throws the fireball into the East River. And that's ending the threat. Now, Red Tornado is giving us some expository dialogue to kind of fill in what this story kind of really compactly tries to do. What the writer tries to do. Basically, what's happening is that there is a businessman slash astrologer. And I think his name, you can pronounce it, is Celestius Damon. Celestius Damon. Not quite as catchy as Maxwell Lord. But there's a lot of similarities between this guy and Maxwell Lord. And it turns out that Damon is kind of a high-profile astrologist. He's an astrologist to the rich and powerful. He can read their stars. And if he can accurately predict what will happen to these people, I think he gets a cut of whatever they gain. Now, his client here, it turns out to be sort of a powerful business executive. And it turns out that Damon had predicted through his horoscope that this particular businessman would become chairman of the board of the corporation that he's running. And this businessman, he's speaking to Damon. He's very impressed with Damon. He's saying, "Hey, Damon, you predicted this would happen through your magic astrology, and it did happen." And the businessman is very appreciative of it, and he agrees to pay whatever fee that Damien sends him for making this accurate prediction. And after the businessman leaves, Damon here, Celestius Damon, he's kind of rubbing his hands together as kind of like the ha-ha, I kind of tricked him here. Now, it turns out that Damien is an astrologer who actually doesn't believe in astrology. This is something I've noticed in a lot of DC comics, was that their writers tended to be a bit cynical. So whenever there were discussions about things like, like New Age stuff, like astrology or seances, or if they were, say, talking about terrorist groups, there was always this cynical, ha-ha, I don't believe in this garbage, but I can manipulate people into thinking it's real. So the DC writers, or at least the editorial staff, were kind of these angry old goats. Now, Damon is imparting some information here. He is thinking to himself, even though he is the villain. So, I can't say that he's talking to himself. And it turns out what he's thinking is that it was actually Damon who mentally manipulated this executive. And it turns out that he's able to somehow contact this I guess psychic switchboard, and he's able to sort of make a connection with this this mental energy that's existing in the world. I guess it's similar to magic, in that magic exists as a natural force, and it's highly trained individuals like the Phantom Stranger, Doctor Strange, and Marvel. They can access this resource, and it turns out that Damon is able to access this resource, but he can do so through this huge machine here that kind of looks a lot like a server, but like not a regular server, like a Fortune 500 company server. And what Damon was able to do is that he was able to extract the power of positive thinking, and he was able to sort of relate this thought process into the executive, if that made any sense. And believe me, I explained it exactly the way the story is telling me. I'm going to turn the page. So it turned out that it really wasn't Damon who predicted that this executive would become the next chairman. It's just that Damon actually enhanced the positive thinking that is within this executive. And this enhanced thinking by the executive was the reason why he was able to garner this promotion. So it wasn't really that Damon made the prediction, it's that Damon mentally fortified this guy to do whatever he had to do to become chairman of the board. And we see that Damon actually does not know the source that he's able to tap in. He knows he can tap into this source, but he really doesn't know what the source is exactly. And it does say it has something to do with concentration, unique concentration. But again, we're not told exactly what this is. This very much has a Wonder Woman 84 feel to it. But what happens is that when Damon uses his machine to tap into this mental source, sometimes what will happen is that it will overload the machine, and the machine basically explodes. And it turns out this is a regular occurrence, because on one hand, Damon has this very useful power that he can use to manipulate people. And he is sort of manipulating them in a positive way. Although we don't know this business executive's moral compass, though. But the thing is that after he uses the machine, he knows the machine tends to blow up on him, and it takes a few weeks for it to be rebuilt. So this is the crux of the story with the astrologer. Now he hypothesizes that Wonder Woman is responsible because he notices that whenever this happens, Wonder Woman tends to be in action. So Damon, Celestius Damon, he somehow has developed a hypothesis that somehow Wonder Woman is activating the machine in a negative way that's causing these explosions. So this means that the astrologer has to figure out a way of getting rid of Wonder Woman. He doesn't want to do a permanent thing. He just wants to get Wonder Woman out of New York. And let's see, Damien, he says, he's thinking to himself here, if I can give people willpower, why can't I give this Wonder Chick a dose of will not power? So rather than willpower, he's going to give Wonder Woman will not power. This is the level of storytelling we're at here. And what he's planning on doing, he's planning on leaving subliminal messages in Wonder Woman's mind that that she cannot control any of her devices. And her devices are the invisible airplane, her bracelets, and her magic lasso. And all three of them come into play in this story. So this is what Red Tornado is telling the viewer here, or the reader, I should say. And, excuse me. And we see Damon, he rebuilt the device, and he's using it against Wonder Woman here, because Wonder Woman is flying over the city in her invisible plane. And he's convincing Wonder Woman that she cannot control her invisible jet. Turn the page. Now, the thing is that, as I had mentioned, the invisible jet is in the river. The scene I just described happened just before Wonder Woman flew the plane into the river. So again, this is really not good storytelling here, because they had gone to a flashback without any real warning. You had to kind of pay attention to this story, which honestly, you really don't want to pay attention to this story too much. So there's a strange scene here where Wonder Woman is zooming her mom on this device. But the thing is, both of them have to wear a headband, and it looks like there's a wire protruding from the headband here. What's kind of interesting is Wonder Woman's face. She looks exhausted. I can imagine such a device. It kind of reminds me of Demolition Man. I don't know if it's an excellent movie if you get a chance to see it. But there's a scene where Sylvester Stallone and Sandra Bullock, they're, quote, making love. And they're using a device similar to this, where making love isn't physical. It's sort of like the kind of this mental experience.
What's wrong? You broke contact.
Contact? I didn't touch you yet.
But I thought you wanted to make love.
Is that what you call this?
First sex has been proven to produce higher orders of alpha waves during digitized transference of sexual energies.
All right, Huxley, what do you say we just do it the old-fashioned way?
Ew, disgusting.
And I can imagine this thing being used in this way. Wonder Woman looks exhausted, like, God damn it, I'm tired of all the sexting. And then, you know, her mom is going, hey, I'm your mom here. So anyway, Wonder Woman needs help getting the plane out of the river. So she's calling her mom on Paradise Island. Now I remember, it's not Amazon Island, it's Paradise Island. But then we see in the next panel, Wonder Woman is flying to Paradise Island. So whatever nonsense that Wonder Woman needed from her mom, she got it. She got the plane out, and she's using the plane to fly to Paradise Island. So Wonder Woman can kind of figure out what's going on, and she's kind of thinking that maybe Mommy can help. Now, Red Tornado is following Wonder Woman here. Now, Red Tornado is making the point that no man is allowed to step foot on Paradise Island. However, Red Tornado is saying, I'm not a man, I'm an android. I'm just cut in the shape of a man, and I identify as a man, as my robotic gender, but I'm not technically a man, so it's okay for me to be on Paradise Island. Because he's an android. So anyway, see Wonder Woman, she's talking to her mom, and it turns out that one of the Amazonians is rock climbing. And she's falling off here, so she's in trouble here, as she's about to fall off this cliff. Now, Wonder Woman and her mom, they were in mid conversation, because Wonder Woman's mom is saying, you know, I don't understand what's going on, and then suddenly she notices the falling cliff climber. Wonder Woman sees this, and she attempts to use her magic lasso to save the climber. However, the lasso wraps itself around Wonder Woman, so the psychic suggestion that Celestius Damon had planted into Wonder Woman's head, it's still active. And the message that he planted was that she can't control her devices. Now, she still obviously has control of her body, but she can't control the devices that she uses. And we see that the climber is still falling here. Wonder Woman is tied up by her own lasso. Now, this causes a dilemma for Red Tornado, because on one hand, he could save this young woman from falling, but on the other hand, it would reveal his presence, which he doesn't want to do. So he's willing to gamble this young woman's life on the belief that Wonder Woman can kind of figure out something. Again, if he's wrong, the odds are wow. That was quite a risk. But it turns out that Wonder Woman does have a plan. And what she does is that she removes her boots. And I'm going to have to turn to the next page. Now, this woman is falling. I'm thinking that maybe the 32 feet per second, that's the rate of gravity, isn't applying here. It's going much slower. And also what we see here is that Wonder Woman does not wear nylons, because they're making it very clear here that she's in her bare feet. So she has those boots on in her, her bare feet. She's in Wonder Woman costume in her bare legs. We know Linda Carter was not like that. Linda Carter wore shiny nylons. And part of it, obviously, is that, hey, she's doing her own stunts a lot of the time, and she needs to protect her legs. And also, I imagine being on set is kind of hot, and she just kind of doesn't want to deal with any type of rashes. Also, I think there were network rules back in the 70s saying that, women could not appear with bare legs. They had to have some type of nylons on. And sometimes I remember seeing TV shows, even into the 90s, where the actress is clearly wearing pantyhose. And I'm like, why the hell are they still following this dumbass rule? Because it's not like they're covering their legs. It's more like they're enhancing the legs. Particularly if you have that type of fetish, which is not the worst fetish to have. So anyway, Wonder Woman, she has her boots off, and she's rolling to where the climber is going to hit the ground. And just before that happens, Wonder Woman, she lifts her thighs, both of her thighs up, and she catches the climber. The climber got belted here. If anything, this would have made the situation worse. Because at least if the climber falls flat, like, all of her body will absorb the impact. And the impact will at least be spread out. Right here, her rib cage is taking the entire impact here. What I would think would have kind of snapped this poor girl into two. This poor girl who looks like Jimmy Olsen. Bad enough she looks like Jimmy Olsen. Now she's going to be in a wheelchair. But it appears that everything went well because next panel we see Hera, Wonder Woman's mom, and Wonder Woman here. They're talking. Hera's happy because, her subject was saved. But however, Wonder Woman, she's still concerned because, again, her magic lasso, which kind of has an interesting history, did not work. Now the magic lasso I should kind of talk about. The magic lasso was something that was developed by the creator of Wonder Woman. I think his name was Marston. He was a psychologist. He was kind of an interesting guy, kind of bit of a quack. He was a smart guy, but he was also kind of a quack. And he was one of the guys who jumped on the comic books are bad for children bandwagon as comic books were becoming popular. And DC decided basically to pay this guy off. And what they did was they went to Marston. They said, listen, we read your concerns. We're concerned about our profit margin. We're concerned about the children and what they're reading. And they asked Marston, could he come up with a hero that would be, say, acceptable to him? The hopes obviously was that he would say yes, and this way, he had a financial stake in comic books, and then he would kind of quietly stop criticizing them. So what he did was he basically came up with Wonder Woman. Although he had used a different name. He used Suprema as the original name. And it was an editor at DC who later changed it to Wonder Woman just before it was initially published. And Marston, again, was an interesting guy. He was a self-described feminist. So he came of age during the women's suffrage movement of the 1920s. This is when women were out there fighting for equal rights, and they were fighting for the right to vote. They got most of what they were asking for, still not equal, but they got the right to vote nationally, because prior to that, it was up to the states. And some states allowed women to vote and allowed them to hold office, and some states didn't. And the women's suffrage movement made it nationalized, where, hey, even if you don't like it as a state, you got to let women vote. And Marston was very much influenced by that. He viewed himself as a radical feminist, even though he had a very chauvinistic idea of what feminism should be. So he was a little bit into S&M. He kind of wanted women to have the illusion that they had power over him, but when you look at the way he lived, ultimately he wanted power over women. One of the things he did, again, strange guy, was he was married, and he took on a mistress, much younger woman, which that part was not necessarily unusual. What was unusual was that he told his wife that the mistress was going to live with them. So Marston, had a home. He had his wife and he had his mistress living together. I don't remember the sleeping arrangements. I got the idea that he tended to prefer the mistress to the wife. The wife went along with this. And what was odd was after Marston had died, the two women continued to live with each other. So there was no lingering bad blood. It wasn't like the case with the mob boss Paul Castellano, where Castellano started fooling around with the housekeeper, and he was living with the housekeeper and his wife at the same time, and he clearly preferred the housekeeper. And there was bad blood. There was bad blood between the wife and the housekeeper, but not between Marston and what was going on. By the way, the mistress was the one who wore the bracelets. She wore bracelets all the time. And that's what influenced Wonder Woman's magical bracelets. Now, what influenced the magic lasso, which started this tangent in the first place, was that Marston believed that he had a way of scientifically finding out when people were lying. And he had invented the very first lie detector test. And obviously, this is something that would be of interest to law enforcement. And the top law enforcement official at the time was J. Edgar Hoover of the FBI. And J. Edgar Hoover hated Marston. He hated him. He thought he was a quack. He thought he was an idiot. Whenever he would get reports about Marston from his agents, about what's going on with him, J. Edgar Hoover always enjoyed insulting him when he would write in the margins. So that's kind of an interesting thing with the creation of Wonder Woman. Now I have to remember where I am in this story. Talking about the magic lasso. So anyway, Wonder Woman, she saves the young climber. She's talking to the mom. They're still trying to figure out what's going on. The mom doesn't seem to be that upset about it. Wonder Woman's very sad. Very nicely drawn faces here by Kurt Schaffenberg. Kurt Schaffenberg really drew beautiful faces. Dave Cockrum was a kind of a protege of Kurt Schaffenberg. Of course, Cockrum was a bit more dynamic. So it turns out that Wonder Woman's mom has this magic machine. And it kind of like works by kind of tapping into the magic, the fabric, the universal fabric of magic. And they're going to turn on the machine and see if they can find something. And then they see the face of Celestius Demon. And Wonder Woman recognizes him. And she sees in the background that there are astrology signs. He has a poster of half moons and stars and such. Wonder Woman really doesn't know how these things are put together. But she does know this is a guy that's located in New York, so she has to go back there. Now, some other devices that Wonder Woman uses to fight crime are also backfiring on her. One of them is her tiara. Wonder Woman has a tiara, just like Luke Cage. However, it's appropriate for Wonder Woman to wear this. And she throws this at a bank robber, but it turns out the tiara kind of boomerangs back to her and strikes her. So this bank robber, rather than running away, he decides he's going to shoot it out with Wonder Woman. He's firing his gun at her. She's using her magic bracelets to deflect the bullets. However, the thing is that the ricochets aren't being bounced back in a controlled manner. So apparently when Wonder Woman does use her bracelets and the bullets deflect, she can kind of do it in a controlled manner. Because on one hand, that's a great power for her, but it's kind of a reckless power for the people around her. But it turns out that Wonder Woman has very little control of the ricochets on where they're going, and it looks like they just missed some bystanders here. So obviously this is problematic for her. She does stop the bank robber, who kind of looks like Robin. My guess, maybe Batman got pissed at him, and Robin didn't get his allowance, so he's saying, F it, I'm going to go to Bruce's favorite bank and make a withdrawal. But he's stopped here by Wonder Woman. Because again, Wonder Woman can control her body. So she judo slams this guy and belts him with, I guess you'd call this kind of a pimp slap here, to be honest here. Okay, so anyway, the problem is becoming more acute. We see Diana Prince here. She's back in her apartment. And she's actually seeing a story of Celestius Damon in the newspaper. So obviously she sees his face. She remembered seeing the face in Mom's magic machine. She puts two and two together. I need to be at this event. Because it says here in the Daily Star, noted astrologer to address convention in Central Park. Again, this calls back to Wonder Woman 84. So anyway, we're in Central Park. It's night. Celestius is going through his act here. So I guess maybe he's trying to do maybe a mass mental influence here amongst the crowd here. And Wonder Woman's impressed with him as a speaker. Turn the page. However, it turns out the stage was not built very well. It looks like they kind of put this event together pretty quickly. And because of this, the stage wasn't properly built. And it starts to give way. And Wonder Woman's kind of thinking, hey, if I stay out of this guy gets murked, and he's off the census, maybe my problems go away here. But that's not how Wonder Woman rolls. So she's going to go out there and do her best to rescue the astrologer. But the thing is, since she can't use any of her devices, since she doesn't have control of them, she has to physically run out and try to catch Celestius Damon here, who's dangling from the edge of this very, very high stage here that's about to collapse. Wonder Woman, she gets there in the nick of time. The stage collapses, but at that point, Wonder Woman has jumped clear, and she is holding Damon in her arms. So Damon has been rescued. Damon's a little surprised here. He kind of gives away the game, saying, why? Why did this have to happen? If only you hadn't interfered, I wouldn't have had to screw up your powers. So basically, this is how Wonder Woman solves the case. The villain kind of assisting here. He realizes that he shouldn't have said that out loud. Wonder Woman is putting things together, realizing that he was the one who was doing this to her intentionally. And this is why she can't use her powers. However, she's going to use her magic lasso to get more answers. Because remember, the lasso forces the person to be compelled to tell the truth. And but Damon is still saying, listen, your devices are still malfunctioning. So, that magic lasso isn't made of magic anymore. Turn the page. However, turns out that it's willpower that's going to save the day. It's Wonder Woman's natural willpower. So what's happening here is that her own natural willpower is overriding the influence that Celestia's Damon put in her head. And because of this, Wonder Woman is able to overcome that influence. And the control of the magic lasso is firmly back in Wonder Woman's hands. She uses the lasso. She captures Celestia's Damon, and then she starts to question him. And part of it, then it looks like the two of them go back to Damon's lair. Damon's, I guess, his office, so to speak, where his machine is. And it turns out the machine once again exploded. But this time Wonder Woman gives us some expository dialogue to explain what's going on, because they gotta wrap up this piece of crap story here. And it turns out what it was is that the mental force that Damon was tapping into, it turned out it was Wonder Woman's own mind. And when Wonder Woman uses her devices, she has to concentrate deeply. And because of this, the feedback from that concentration was destroying Damon's machines. So Wonder Woman's pointing out that, dude, you were effed either way, because on one hand it was my mental energy that you were tapping into, but the thing is, I need to use my concentration, which means that you blowing out your machines was not avoidable. That was, you should have taken that as a cost of doing business. And I guess maybe this astrologer, he could have kept the scam going, knowing that he had limited uses for his machines. I guess if he was much more judicious with using them, it might not be a big problem. He would know that, listen, for me to have this machine, I have to accept that, after a couple of uses, it's going to be, slag, kaput. And yeah, that's it. And then Red Tornado, he ends the story. He's saying, hey, I was pretty impressed. My circuits were tingling the entire time. And he's saying that, Celestia should never have underestimated the power of a woman, a Wonder Woman. And some dot matrix printouts. And looks like Red Tornado, he's a yes for the return of Wonder Woman to Justice League of America. And that's the end of the A story. The B story has the same creative team. They brought their mediocre energy from the first story. They brought it into the second story. I guess maybe this story is a little better because the dialogue has been, quote, punched up. That's something Jules Schwartz kind of liked doing. And I think he had to do it a lot with Carrie Bates. I know I always kind of dump on Carrie Bates, and a lot of the time he kind of deserves it. But nevertheless, Carrie Bates was a long-time writer for The Flash. Jules Schwartz, he was fine with the stories. He kept Carrie Bates, he wrote that comic for like 15 years. And even during the DC implosion, when they had to cancel so many titles, The Flash survived because The Flash was one of the better selling titles. Eventually what happened is Carmine Infantino started making noise about suing DC over the character. And that's why they killed off The Flash in the Infinity Crisis on the Infinity Earths. That's when DC started mainstreaming their universe. So anyway, the reason why I brought it up was because the dialogue here is a little punched up. I get the feeling that maybe Jules went to one of the editors, one of the assistants, and say, hey, can you kind of make this dialogue a little more interesting? And that kind of works. We'll see here. Right now, it's multiple heroes, multiple members of the Justice League of America. They're on the satellite, not the satellite of love, but they're on the satellite, and they're discussing the issues with Wonder Woman. And apparently they're having trouble over who's going to monitor Wonder Woman next. We have Green Arrow saying, just a mother-loving second. I say Hawkeye should monitor Wonder Woman. Hawkeye who sounds like he has his dick in his hand. He's going, but, Batman saying, this squabbling's getting us nowhere. And then there's a voice that calls out, precisely, Batman. And it turns out to be the Phantom Stranger. The members are a little surprised, but they're not surprised. They're surprised by how quickly this appearance came, but they're used to the Phantom Stranger showing up at the drop of a hat. So these guys aren't necessarily, they're not necessarily freaked out. They're used to the Phantom Stranger kind of doing this. Phantom Stranger is a character I liked. I think when he was first introduced, he tended to be more hands-on, and he tended to be more of a super heroic presence in kind of the earlier. But then they started using him in a way that I really liked, where he basically became DC's Rod Sterling. Rod Sterling was the creator and host of The Twilight Zone. And that's the role that they had used the Phantom Stranger in. And those are the comics that I tended to like the Phantom Stranger the best in. So when the Phantom Stranger was overly involved with the physicality of what was going on, really didn't like him. I liked him as this omnipotent narrator of the events going on. The comic became more of a horror comic rather than a superhero comic. It became more of an anthology comic book because it was really sort of the Phantom Stranger kind of like, shall we say, kind of getting involved with these people's lives kind of very quietly. And it was somewhat similar to the Spectra at the time. The Spectra, he was a bit more hands-on. He was way more evil. Oh boy, that guy was evil as fuck. I'm going to do one of those Jim Aparo Spectras. And so anyway, Jim Aparo was also doing Phantom Stranger. I'm a little in tangent zone here. So anyway, this is the story where Phantom Stranger is narrating what's going on with Wonder Woman. And the Phantom Stranger is going to use this very large crystal ball here. I guess it's just this LDS crystal ball here. And apparently we see Wonder Woman, and she is facing off against the Statue of Liberty. And remember, around this time, the bicentennial was coming up. So the bicentennial year was about a year away from this. So obviously anything involving colonial America or the Statue of Liberty was showing up. This is kind of a weird story. There's a lot of talk of freedom here. And one of the things I'd gotten from reading comic books like this was there tended to be a lot of libertarians who became comic book readers. I don't know. Maybe they like fiction. They like cartoonish fiction a lot. And I can kind of see the libertarian bent in this story. And this story is called "Give Her Liberty and Give Her Death." So anyway, so at this point here, the Phantom Stranger is going to start talking. Turn the page. And showing up on the crystal ball is an old enemy of the Justice League of America, Felix Faust. I'm pretty sure that Felix Faust was a Justice League villain and not specifically a Wonder Woman villain. But don't hold me to that. Green Arrow, he's a little surprised because he thought Felix Faust was in the Slammer, as he says. I thought he was in the Slammer. Superman says, obviously not. Each time we've imprisoned him, he's done a disappearing act. Not hard for a real magician. Superman is he's a little uptight with magic. Now, magic is the one thing Superman has no defense of. So he tends to be a little paranoid about magic. He's also very fascinated with magic. He's the guy when he's not Superman, he's Clark Kent, and he's in his apartment, and he sees a special on Harry Houdini. Clark is there because he's anything involving magic, even fake magic, is of interest to Superman here. And it looks like the crystal ball is giving us some expository events that had happened. And it turned out that Felix Faust, he's not imprisoned, he's free. He actually summoned a couple of demons from a particular dimension. Now, these demons are really kind of nasty and unfriendly, and they're not appreciative of Felix Faust actually summoning them. Because on one hand, they're making it clear that, these guys are in a fiery pit. But these guys weren't quick to leave that fiery pit. They were happy as hell in that fiery pit. And one of the demons is saying that alone, disturbing us, is sufficient grounds for you to incur our wrath. Now, the reason Felix Faust had summoned these guys is that these are powerful demons. So they're making it clear that dude, you tugged on Superman's cape here. And then Felix Faust, he starts whining to them. I've struggled for years to gain control of America, to make its people my slaves. I've exhausted all my knowledge in attempts without success. Oh, great host of hell, where did I go wrong? He needs some reassurance, and he needs some good advice from these guys. Like these two demons are Oprah or something. Now they don't really want to help him, but they feel compelled because they kind of have to protect their status here. So they give Felix Faust kind of the information he needs to succeed in what he wants to do, and that is to take control of America and make the people his slaves. And the demons are saying, your dream shall never be realized until you steal the thing most prized by all free men from sea to sea, rob them of their liberty. The other one's saying, the landmark which does symbolize that freedom you must shrink in size. All liberty you'll hold in check when first you wear it at your neck. So clearly they're kind of talking in riddles here, but basically based on the cover, we know that the liberty that they're talking about, that Felix Faust needs to shrink down and to take possession of, is the Statue of Liberty. So it's this powerful symbol of freedom that Felix must get a hold of and possess. And by doing so, he'll be robbing people of their sense of freedom and liberty, and this will make them his slaves. And the guys are really into the story. Flash is like, look, the demons vanished. And Felix Faust isn't impressed with this advice. He's saying, that's it? A little rhyme, then poof? They left behind some books, mystic texts. Maybe these will explain the cryptic instructions. So Felix Faust is a guy who needs things spoon-fed to him. He's not really into abstract thinking here. So apparently these demons, even though they're angry with him for disturbing them, I should say, nevertheless they have given him the key to what he desires. This is weird because these demons, they have no stake in this, but he's like, yeah, fuck it, if the planet's enslaved, fuck I care. So these demons are real asshole trolls. So then we cut to Diana Prince here. and she is sightseeing in New York. She's new to New York. I think what I'm not sure whether Spy Girl Wonder Woman, because at one point they depowered her, they took away her costume, and they kind of made her into one of these girl spies that were very popular at the time on TV. Kind of like Diana Rigg in The Avengers, or Stephanie Powers in a Girl from U.N.C.L.E. There were a few others, and I'm not sure whether they changed the setting of that to New York. They might have, because she's in New York now, Diana Prince here, and she says that she spent years in New York, but she never really went sightseeing. That actually was a thing. I don't know if it's still that way, where native New Yorkers tended not to go to the touristy parts of the city, and they tended not to do the touristy things. This was like a point of pride. Like, if you were a native New Yorker, you were above going to the Statue of Liberty. You were, above going to, the Empire State Building. You were like above like going to California. It was a point of pride to say, I've never been to California. All those fake plastic people prefer being here in real New York. It's an unfortunate attitude to have. The tourist spots like Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building, they're kind of fun. I did the Statue of Liberty as a kid in 5th and 6th grade, if I remember. Our class climbed up to the top of the crown, because the torch was closed at that point, but you can go up to the crown and see it. It was like a death march. I have no idea how many stories the Statue of Liberty is, but we felt every step. We're lazy ass 5th and 6th graders. We felt every step, and that turned into a death march for my entire class. Both of those classes. But nevertheless, it's a great thing to go. When I go to other cities, I try to go to some of the tourist stuff, and yeah, I have fun. And turn the page. So anyway, it turns out the Statue of Liberty is throwing a temper tantrum. Don't know why. I guess the thing is that maybe with bicentennial fever, there was a lot going on about how great the country is and how much it's grown in 200 years. But the Statue of Liberty wasn't feeling it. And she was like, hey, it's not justice for all. It's justice for some. Or, just us. And Statue of Liberty feels that this is a lie, that she's symbolizing freedom that doesn't really truly exist in this country. She's very angry and very militant, and she wants to burn her bra and like that. Remember, the women's movement was really big at this time. This is when they were trying to pass the Equal Rights Amendment, which ended up failing, in large part because a lot of women didn't support it. But nevertheless, it was a very interesting time. I was happy to kind of see it, even though I was really young at the time, because I kind of like seeing these empowered women. So anyway, Statue of Liberty, she's throwing the book. I don't know, the book or the plaque that she holds. Probably, we hold these truths to be self-evident. And she's throwing it at the crowd. She is pissed off as hell. Now, this is an interesting thing here. Diana Prince, she's on the ferry to Liberty Island. She wants to change it to Wonder Woman. Obviously, the place to go is to find an unoccupied restroom, which they would have on the ferries. Although I imagine 1975, those things were filthy. Those things are filthy as fuck. Diana Prince said, "Oh hell no, hell no! I am not putting my feet on that floor." So what she does is that she falls off the side of the ferry and into the water. Now this is something that happened in a Spider-Man comic. I think it was issue number 135, where Spider-Man was fighting the tarantula, and the tarantula showed up on I think the Circle Line, which Peter Parker was on with Mary Jane and Flash, and Norman Osborn, and he had to change into Spider-Man, and he did so by jumping into the water, claiming that I just happened to fall off, and Spider-Man just happened to show up. So there's probably a little bit of a call to that. We see Wonder Woman. She is using the lasso to change her clothing, the molecules of her clothing, into her costume. She's doing it underwater. Green Arrow's really impressed with this, and he says, "Get a load of that costume switch. Underwater yet. Far freaking out." Now, should be noted, Green Arrow, he's a little spoiled. He gets to see Black Canary taking off her nylons every night. He is spoiled. He is spoiled. He's already in heaven with that. When she takes off that wig and she takes off that costume and she's pulling down those nylons. The circuitry that Red Tornado has, nothing compared to what Green Arrow is going through there. But he's really impressed with this. Then Green Arrow says, Santa H. Claus on a bike. All this has happened already, and we missed it. Yeah, this is a fun little thing, the Santa H. Claus, I should say. Santa Claus. Because there's the old expression, Jesus H. Christ on a motorbike. I remember using that in the 70s. And Green Arrow, he's confused. Hawkman here is kind of rubbing it in, saying, "I'm not surprised, Archer, since you were on Sentinel duty." So the thing was, this is an adventure that happened without the Justice League knowing about it. So basically, the Statue of Liberty was able to animate itself and violently attack not only civilians, but one of their members, or one of their would-be members. And these guys had no idea this happened. And then Green Arrow, again, the punched up dialogue. Sheesh, a guy can't keep tabs on everything. No matter, seems like Diane has made the scene pronto. Excuse me for the burping. That is punched up dialogue too. That is bad dialogue too. So anyway, Wonder Woman, she's coming in. She has the lasso in her whirling around as she's dive bombing the Statue of Liberty. Statue of Liberty sees her, but nevertheless, Wonder Woman is able to use the magic lasso to wrap around the Statue of Liberty here, and because of the lasso is around the Statue of Liberty, and it should have to follow Wonder Woman's commands. So since Wonder Woman is commanding it to stop, she's expecting the statue to stop. And turn the page. And it turns out that's not the case. The Statue of Liberty, even though it's still wrapped in the magic lasso, which again has infinite length, it's still trying to swat at Wonder Woman here. So Wonder Woman knows that she's in for a fight here. Wonder Woman, she gathers that the magic lasso is having no effect. So she's going to change up tactics really fast here. So she releases the statue from the lasso, and it looks like Wonder Woman is trying to figure out what to do. And then there's a loud screeching noise. And both Wonder Woman and the statue hear it. Wonder Woman is able to kind of levitate simply because she's twirling her lasso. I have no idea how that works. But nevertheless, she's not falling. She's able to levitate. The Statue of Liberty flies off. And Wonder Woman, she calls for the invisible jet here. The Statue of Liberty flying off here kind of looks like Master Mold flying off in that king size Hulk I had taken a look at I think about a year ago. Not as well drawn as what John Byrne did. The art by Kurt Schaffenberg, I would say it's kind of average for him. Kurt can do better stuff than this. But the thing was, DC did not use the Marvel method at this time. So Kurt was working from scripts. And this is the script they gave him, and Kurt was like, okay, I need that paycheck. So we see Superman, he's coming in. Now he's talking about the Statue of Liberty flying to the quote, Old World's Fairgrounds on Long Island. I do not recall any historical World's Fair being held on Long Island. Now, there was one, 1964, I think it was probably the last one, and that was held in Queens. That was held, it was held near Shea Stadium. And some of the exhibits were still there, particularly I think the Biosphere, or the huge spear at the Earth. That was the most famous structure that came from that World's Fair. And yeah, that I do remember, but I don't remember anything on Long Island. Turn the page. One thing I should mention beforehand is that the statue is shrinking and it's going into a building. Now, as Wonder Woman is flying into the building that the shrunken Statue of Liberty has entered. Remember, one of the things Felix Faust had to do was to shrink the Statue of Liberty, which is the symbol of liberty everywhere. And it turns out that Felix Faust, even though Wonder Woman doesn't know it yet, he enchains Wonder Woman. So Wonder Woman doesn't have access to her bracelets because she's been enchained. They've been enchained. Wonder Woman, one of Wonder Woman's weaknesses is that if a man does bound her in some way, she loses her powers. Or she might lose, I don't know if she loses her powers in general or she loses it against that particular individual. But the thing is, she can't be bound by a man. Again, this goes back to the S&M aspects of Wonder Woman's creation. And because she was bound by a man, this leaves her open to an attack by the Statue of Liberty. At this point, the Statue of Liberty is about the same height as Wonder Woman herself, maybe a little taller. And the Statue of Liberty was able to use one of the spikes in her crown, and she's able to hurl it at Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman, yes, she takes a header here, so she has a concussion. And Wonder Woman is being held in a glass cage at this point. Kind of similar to Barbie. If you saw the Barbie movie, which I loved, when Barbie is told to go back into her original packaging. This is sort of similar to that. So Wonder Woman is face to face with her true foe. And it's Felix Faust. Felix Faust, he's really rubbing it in here with Wonder Woman. He's saying, "Welcome, Wonder Woman, to Felix Faust's death house. Poor thing, you seem to be in need of refreshment. Can I give you something? Coffee? Tea? A kick in the teeth?" So, yeah, Felix is really rubbing it in here to Wonder Woman, who, you know, she's kind of helpless back in her original packaging. And the thing is, she's going to be gassed to death. So Felix is playing for the whole thing. He's going for the whole enchilada here. And Felix is saying, "Listen, you know, before you perish, I'm going to give you one last request because I'm such a nice guy. And the thing is, I'm going to pick that request for you." So the thing is that Wonder Woman, she gets to ask one last question. And Felix Faust is saying, "Listen, you better make it a good one because it's going to be the last one you're gonna be doing on this earth." Wonder Woman asked about the Statue of Liberty. She asked. She doesn't ax. I remember Mayor Ed Koch, he hated that because so many school teachers, and I remember a few would say ax instead of ask. And so anyway, she asked Felix why he has the Statue of Liberty on a necklace, because the Statue of Liberty at this point has shrunken to the point where he can actually just attach it to a necklace. And one of the things is that the demons had told him that he needed to capture a symbol of liberty, and he needed to shrink it down so small that it would take the will of Earth's liberty-loving people, and that would make it easier for him to enslave them. Felix is saying, "Hold it, I have a condition here. I'm going to allow you to ask me a question, but I'll decide whether I want to answer it or not." And he's saying, "Nah, I don't want to answer it. So I'm going to murk you. I'm going to remove you from the census, and you're not even going to get your last request in." So he's kind of being a dick here. Wonder Woman, she's kind of used to this. She hangs around Superman a lot, so she sees a lot of super dickery here. This is nothing new. Turn the page. Then it turns out the manacles, the bonds that are holding Wonder Woman, they disappear. And the thing is, Wonder Woman's not surprised by this, saying, "Listen, I'm gonna have the last laugh now." So she's watching the Felix's chains are vanishing, which means that Wonder Woman has her powers back, and she breaks out of the original packaging here, and she's going after Felix Faust. Felix Faust is feeling the blowback from the gas because, as Wonder Woman is kicking herself out of this glass box, the gas is free. So it turns out that Felix Faust kind of huffed a bunch of this dangerous gas. Wonder Woman is wrapping up the story here for us. I'm going to read this expository dialogue because I'm not 100% sure what's going on. "It was clever of you, sending out the incantation which controlled the statue as an inaudible high-frequency signal. But luckily, the vibrations of my magic lasso altered that frequency, making it audible to me. I have no effing idea what the hell is going on here." DC had a thing with frequencies. Like, apparently, there's Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, and they occupy the exact same space. But because they vibrate at different frequencies, they exist in different dimensions. And again, DC kind of put a lot into frequencies are magic. Turns out Wonder Woman, she says, With my Amazon knowledge of all languages, it was easy to translate your spell and reverse the magic that imprisoned me. Felix Faustus, he's listening to this, but he still has control of his magic. It's just that Wonder Woman can counter it. So the thing is that she's aware of the spells that Felix Faust is using, and because she knows the spells, she knows the counter spell. Kind of a nice little panel here of Wonder Woman doing a somersault as she's breaking free of the cage, because Felix Faust had created a cage to kind of slow her down. But she's making it clear that she's fighting for liberty, and there are no jails for the cause of liberty in Wonder Woman's mind. I'm going to turn the page. And finally, Felix Faust and Wonder Woman, they are confronting each other. Wonder Woman, she's really gloating here that she has the upper hand. And it turns out the incantation that Felix Faust is breaking. So the thing is, the Statue of Liberty that was around his neck is starting to grow larger and larger. So that means that the liberty that Felix Faust had stolen from the population, it's being returned to them. And the statue is growing larger and larger because of this, because Felix Faust has less and less control over it. Again, this is very similar to the ending of Wonder Woman 84, which was not a terrible movie. It was a bit of a mess, but I still enjoyed it. Wonder Woman, she's not hearing this. She's using her magic lasso to amplify the signals. So the thing is that at this point, Felix Faust, he's still able to tap into the nature of magic. But the thing is, because Wonder Woman knows the frequencies, she can counter this. So at this point, Felix Faust is being countered at every move. He's starting to freak out at this point here, saying that, all those years of world domination are going to go down the drain here. Think of Felix Faust and his dreams of domination, and you just wanting to take that away from him. Then he gives us some expository dialogue for no reason, saying basically that the reason why the Statue of Liberty is involved in this, outside of the fact that it's going to be the bicentennial in the following year, was that when the statue was being built with metal, which I don't think Bob Brown knew in that Avengers comic, it happened to align with a particular magical force involving liberty. So the type of spell that Felix Faust needed to access, it turned out the Statue of Liberty was in the right constellation and had the right astrology sign for it to sort of be this direct connection. So so that's kind of the nonsensical explanation. The poor reader who spent 25 cents on this turn the page. Felix Faust, however, he is a formidable opponent. This is a guy who's faced off against the Justice League. And he still has control of his magic. He's going to his bag of tricks here, where he's going to kind of strike at Wonder Woman's bracelets in the hopes of him bounding her again. Because remember, if a man is able to bound Wonder Woman, she's powerless. But Wonder Woman, she's able to counter this attack, similar to how bullets deflect off her bracelets. Magic also deflects off her bracelets. It hits Felix right in the mouth here. So he's defeated by his own magic. So basically, she basically used his own power against him. It turned out the Statue of Liberty was able to find its base in New York Harbor. Is it New York Harbor? I've seen it so many times when I would go on the Staten Island Ferry, which is a fun ride and it's free. So then, yeah, so, oh yeah, Liberty Island. So yeah, so Statue of Liberty went back to Liberty Island. The Phantom Stranger is gone. Phantom Stranger kind of disappeared from this story. I think he realized how lame it was. He says, I don't really want to be directly associated with it. So he left. The other members of Justice League, they're kind of confused by this. Green Arrow is saying, man, either that cat's some kind of Houdini or we've all just been rapping to a spook. Kurt Schaffenberg, great artist, but he draws a terrible Batman. Batman looks more like Catman in this panel here. I expect the other members of the Justice League to kind of rub his belly. This is how much of a cat he looks like. He's not impressed with the Phantom Stranger and his disappearing act. He says, I prefer to think of it as purely cheap theatrics. In any event, the facts are clear. Diane has again proven herself worthy of rejoining the Justice League of America. However, there is one person who is being very somber about this, and it's Superman. And again, Superman's a guy who's bothered by magic, and because it scares him, because then he realizes that he could be subject to super dickery. Superman, he likes being the super dick. He does not want to be screwed over by the super dick, though. So then Superman, he shares with the other members, just thinking, Wonder Woman successfully handled a major crisis that we didn't even know about. That is a legitimate concern. What about the next time when someone else must monitor her? Will the Justice League of America be there when it counts? So yeah, Superman's a little concerned about this. The fact that I think they pinned it on Green Arrow as being, why the fuck weren't you looking at the monitor? And yeah, that's it. That should concern Superman. Yeah, that's kind of a major screw up by the Justice League of America, because if they head down to Earth and they get interviewed about this, they're gonna be, what? They're gonna sound like Stan Lee when Stan Lee went on his college tours, and the college kids were asking him about Howard the Duck, and Stan Lee had no idea how to answer these questions. And when he came back to the Marvel offices, this is according to Jim Starlin, Stan Lee spent the entire time going, who the F is Howard the Duck? What the F was Howard the Duck? Because all these college kids were peppering with questions he couldn't flim-flam his way out of. So yeah, Superman has some concerns. And the next issue, it's going to be the Elongated Man, who chronicles Wonder Woman. And they felt the Elongated Man could host, solo host Wonder Woman, but they didn't feel this way about Red Tornado and the Phantom Stranger. So that's about it for that story. I kind of liked, actually it's strange, they're talking about the Black Canary story. And yeah, I liked that story a bit more than this story. The story wasn't horrible, it's just there was a lot of plot convenience, there was a lot of shortcuts, and yeah, there was a lot of mediocrity in it. I would have wanted more for my quarter back then. Okay, I'm going to take a look at the letters page. Wonder Words. The first one is by Scott from Portland, Texas. He really liked the Black Canary issue. I think Nick Cardy was the artist. He said he did a really good job with Wonder Woman. He liked the story, and overall he was like, hey, I got value for my quarter. Editorial answers him back saying, yeah, thanks for saying the nice things about us. Second one is also on that issue. B.A. Newsom, I don't know if he's related to Gavin. I don't think so. He's from Louisville, Kentucky. And he also enjoyed the story. he's kind of bringing up Paradise Island, though. And he is bringing up something about Paradise Island, saying that that I think in the story that if a man shows up, steps foot on Paradise Island, the Amazonians, the ever youthful Amazonians, would age. But I think it was changed to in that issue to where if a man steps on Paradise Island, all the women would fall in love with themselves with him, and then they would eventually destroy themselves. So Paradise Island would turn into Easter Island if a man showed up there, because they just couldn't control themselves with that schlong there. Another letter from Joe from Brooklyn. He's saying that I don't know what he's saying exactly. He likes Elliot Magnin as a writer. Okay. I don't think he likes the monitoring plan. He's saying, just put her into the Justice League. And this last letter didn't like that issue. Saying it was kind of silly and kind of goofy and kind of corny. And the writer prefers like Len Wein or Denny O'Neil or Bridwell rather than Wonder Woman. Yeah, he doesn't. This writer doesn't like Magnin or Carrie Bates. He feels that they tend to be too goofy. And so that's about it. So that is my review of Wonder Woman issue number 218, and I hope to have more reviews up soon. Bye.